United States, there's a lot of competing ideas. I think everybody is now very much aware of the infrastructure challenge, that we face. But what we haven't done an effective job really is in organizing the forums in which we can exchange those kinds of ideas. And you're starting to see some of that take hold. And this kind of conference, for example, is one model that you're seeing followed in the U.S. But one concern is that they're very anecdotal. And what we really need now is a sustained, focused conversation that will attract some of the forward-looking thinkers who are in fact there, but just need to find their way to the right table to really get the power of their ideas out there. It's a challenge that we're facing all across the United States. Part of it is that the economy is changing so quickly. There's been lots of dislocations and lots of disruptive technologies and dynamics that are changing the way people live and where they live and work and how they live and work and how they move around and all those kinds of things. So the world is just so vastly different today than it was when many of the big projects that we're talking about were initially incubated. That's not at all to say that many of them are still not very much needed. But when you think about developing the strong consensus and convincing all of the members of the public and the decision makers of the need and the level of priority, that's where it can get a little complicated because you have so many more ideas out there today. So I think it's going to be important to continue not only channeling the resources that we put into planning, but to find more effective ways to update all of the information that the inputs that go into that planning to really reflect the realities of where we are today. We're already learning from Canada is what's possible with the model, what the model is about, and what's possible, and what can be achieved not only with the infrastructure assets themselves, but the economic development that can follow as well. I think what Canada is going to learn and can learn from the U.S., particularly where you have large parts of the country that are highly densely populated and are very complicated in not only their politics but the assets involved. And yet we are finding ways to work through it and to open a market in the U.S. So if you think that that's achievable in the U.S., just think of what could be done in a place like Canada where you already got familiarity with the market, you've already got a tested model. And I think, as I alluded to earlier, I think we're going to learn some things from one another because the other reality is this is about infrastructure broadly and not about any particular form of infrastructure or sector or any particular model. So some of the learning that Canadians may benefit from are on some of the non-P3 investments that we've made and how to leverage some local assets around transit-oriented development and mixed-use development and some of those kind of things. And some of the things that we're already learning from Canada is how to take some of those real estate models that we know and add infrastructure investment into the mix, and out of that in some cases has come a successful P3 project. So I think I'm increasingly of the view that we have a North America laboratory that we can all benefit from. It is project by project. It's a much more fragmented process. You have all of the individual states that have their long-standing governance structures and procurement structures, and then you have a lot of this activity that's driven by the local and regional level. So a couple of other levels of decision-making and process. So it is very complicated, but there's nothing more powerful than the merits of a good project. And that's why I think it's so important to really put in the work that's required to generate that strong consensus, because when there's power behind the project, then people are much more incentivized to figure out how to get it done. Like many in the industry, we're very hopeful. We're pleased to see the top-line commitment to investing in infrastructure. I think there are a lot of questions about how that will be done. So what will be the size of the commitment? How will any resources be allocated? Will they be pushed through some systems that have been proven ineffective, or will they be allocated in ways that will really catalyze new forms of investment and private investment and things of that nature? So a lot of details. I think part of the challenge is on us as an industry to look at all the work that's been done over the last several years to point out the bottlenecks and the difficulties in the system and bring forward a very clear and transparent playbook for the current decision makers as to what it is that they really need to do to put into effect the objectives that they have articulated. So I think there's cause for hope, but there's work to be done in both the public and private sectors to make sure that it's successful.